Well, hello, John Browning. How are you doing today, my friend?
I am doing fantastic, almost unbelievably well.
Well, that's good. You got a little bit more work to do, but that's okay. I love answers like that. The weather around here, I've been in Little Rock, has been up and down and cold, and we got some snow finally. But I always tell people I carry the weather inside of me. It doesn't matter what's doing outside. I'm going to be fantastic or unbelievable every day. Doesn't matter. So I'm glad you're doing the same way. Hey, I want to talk today as we launch out here is talking about the Roaring 20s. Remember the Roaring 20s? I don't think you were around,
I
but
was not around.
yeah,
Don't make me any older than I need to be.
well, the Roaring 20s were really, it was a period of time that was characterized by a period of like rapid economic growth and a lot of social change. A lot of things were happening back in the 20s. As I know, we find ourselves there again, really, now that we're in 2022, we're in another roaring 20s, right? And I know you've got some ideas around that. So how do you, what would you have to say about the roaring 20s that we're in now and the economic growth potential that we have?
Well, Michael, I think you're absolutely right. I think there is a lot of parallels, comparisons that we could draw to the roaring 20s that, we already experienced in our history, American history. You had the automobile, the radio, the discovery of insulin, all in the 20s. All of that allowed us to move things quicker, move people faster, and again, made us able to conquer some of our health challenges. Today, what we're seeing is, I kind of call it the sort of the 5 pillars of innovation. And I think today in the roaring 2020s, which we'll call the roaring 20s to maybe 2.0. How about that?
I like it.
Roaring 20s 2.0 could potentially be even more powerful than the earlier the earlier roaring 2000s. Right. And the reason for that is there is more happening now than happened back then. And it ties together in such a way that the different innovations are supporting one another and building one another up. And so when I talk about this, I talk about things like in the healthcare field, you've got DNA sequencing that used to cost $1 million to sequence your DNA. Now it's closer to $100. I mean,
really?
It has really come down. You've got adaptive robotics. So not just a robot in a factory that can take one part and put it in there and screw it down, and that's all that one robot can do. Right. But these robots today can adapt and learn because of one of the other 5 pillars. I'll say number 3 is artificial intelligence.
AI. Yep, it's all over the place now.
And I always thought that this was a super complicated thing that, it took like a doctorate degree to do. They are now, like right around junior high, that middle school and high school, they're training kids to do basic AI programming.
Wow, that's crazy.
Think about that. AI is much further along than I think most people realize. And it ties into everything from manufacturing to even the vaccines, love them or hate them, the vaccines and the ability to test and get those out to the market much faster. That was because of AI.
Oh, that's interesting.
And then you look at energy storage.
Yeah.
Another really big innovation that is happening at an increasing rate, I'll say. And then, of course, in the finance field, you've got blockchain. Now, I'm not talking about Bitcoin necessarily, but Bitcoin is built on top of what they call blockchain technology.
Okay, I've heard of that.
So blockchain technology is supporting a lot of things in finance, but also a lot of things in, say, smart contracts. I don't know have you recently like bought a house or maybe even a car or something where you signed electronically?
Refinanced our house 2 years ago and signed everything. And I don't even know what my mortgage guy looks like. Never met him.
Don't even have to show up, right? And they have ways of verifying things to make sure that everybody on that contract performs. And if they don't perform, there's a penalty for it. could be much, much better than even the paper contracts that we've had in the past.
Yeah.
So you've got all of these innovations. You can see there's a lot more innovations now than there was back in the roaring 2000s.
Rapid. Yeah.
And you think about AI ties into obviously robotics, and it ties into the Internet of Things. I heard a statistic this morning that more data has been collected over the past 2 years than has ever been collected before. Period. Okay, so the big problem I still remember talking about this. The big problem was, okay, great, we have all this data. Nobody has any idea how to crunch it and make anything useful out of it.
Yeah.
Well, now, thanks to companies that we have in Guardian Rock portfolios, by the way, there are companies and businesses that, and just because they're innovative doesn't mean they're not profitable. These are very profitable companies right now.
Yes.
That are learning through AI how to crunch that data and make useful things for, say, the DARPA, the Department of Defense, the General Mills, General Motors, Tesla, whatever it might be, manufacturers, so they can use that to get better at what they are. And what do they do with that data once it's created and something useful? They plug it into their AI.
Yeah. Isn't that fascinating?
It's fascinating.
Wow. That's gotta be as earth shattering as the car when it came out, to go, what in the world? Right. I mean, just it's a different world. It really is. And the cool thing is you don't have to understand it all, but you need to understand what's going on and see some of the connections. And that's why I love your five, what'd you call them? The 5 pillars of something.
Yeah, I call them the 5 pillars, and I stole that, by the way. I should give credit. I stole that. Kathy Wood and I did a lot of work together many, many years ago before she was like a famous investor. People were comparing her to Warren Buffett now. I thought that was the ultimate compliment. But that's her. She has the 5 pillars of innovation.
Yeah.
And making the connections off of those 5 pillars, it just builds very, very quickly up.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's something that, John, that why people, I encourage people to reach out to you and talk to you and listen to your podcast and read what you do and go to your Facebook pages and all that, because you think at a different level. You learn and you understand how all these things work together, like I would call it a spider web, right? They all connect together, and it helps you what you do, which is do analysis of businesses and all kinds of things to help people build a portfolio. And as we always say, this is not investment advice, right? This is a conversation.
Yep.
But when somebody reaches out to you and you walk them through your process of building relationships, asking questions, it's all of that knowledge that you have in your brain that you've done to say, okay, what are you trying to make happen? And how do we help you, right?
That's right. Because, people do. So the downside, the flip side, right, is that people get excited about all this new innovation and they start just piling all this stuff into their portfolio. Well, the other side of this is it's extremely volatile.
Mm-hmm.
In the last 4-5 months, some of these innovation companies, businesses, have declined by 50%, some more than that. So can you really sleep at night having that as just your entire portfolio? That's really tough for anybody. I don't care who you are. Right. It's tough to see your portfolio go down like that. But if you have the right mix for you, you can still participate in the long-term growth of innovation while still being able to sleep at night. It's all in the way that you put it together.
Yeah.
One of the really interesting things that I saw, I think, past couple weeks is they did a comparison against, and this is where Warren Buffett and Kathy Wood are compared together, of Kathy Wood's portfolio. It's going straight up, right, the past year or so, and Warren Buffett's is kind of down here, and it's done well but not amazing. And then suddenly over the last couple, say 3 or 4 months, Kathy's has come down and they're almost touching now. And they're like, oh, see, Kathy was wrong. Warren's right. How about this idea? If you use really good portfolio management techniques and you're disciplined, You have somebody who's watching this, as Kathy, the Kathy Wood stocks, we'll call them the innovation stocks, go like this. You start not eliminating them from your portfolio, but trimming them. And maybe you put those into some of the businesses that maybe Warren Buffett likes. And what do you know? You've got something that comes right in the middle, and you've done better maybe than Warren Buffett, maybe not quite as good as Kathy Wood, but then again, you don't experience that big downside volatility.
Right. Yeah. And that's something that somebody like John can help you with, because that's far too complex for the average Joe, right? I tracked with what you were saying there, John. That's great. But to actually implement that, to do it, to know when to pull out, when to shift things, that takes somebody who's an expert, which is what you are in doing that, and somebody who just really loves digging into all this stuff and learning all those details. I'm glad God made people like you, John, because that's what you do. And that's why you can, somebody can reach out to you and connect with you and talk and say, well, here's what I'm trying to do. And as you always have told me on the podcast and everything, is it's not about building a portfolio as much as it is building your life, and a portfolio that will support that life, whatever that is. Different for every person, right?
Exactly.
And some people love this idea. And some people, we talked an episode or two ago about Bitcoin and all those different things. And some people love that. Other people are like, yeah, I don't want anything to do with it. That's okay. Doesn't matter. Yep. They're just, those are like tactics, right? What do you want to do with your life? How are you going to build something that supports that life through a portfolio? That's where John comes in to have conversations with you. And I know, John, you've written an Amazon bestselling book. You've got this, they can reach out to you. I love this texting thing you have, texting the word life to 21,000 on your cell phone. So you pull out your cell phone and text the word life to 21,000 and see what happens. You'll get John's contact information. It's really cool. So I love that. And obviously your website, guardianrockwealth.com, is how you can get a hold of John and have a conversation. And I know he's doing some Facebook things. He's always, talking on different podcasts. So he's all over the place. Tap into his brain and see how he can help you make the roaring 20s fuel your portfolio, your life, give you the life that you're really after. It's conversation, but that's where it starts, right, John?
That's right. That's where it starts.
It's always a conversation. And if John can't help you, he'll definitely tell you. So he's not a strong arm salesperson by any stretch of the imagination. He's just a good guy who knows a lot of stuff about building a portfolio. So reach out to him, John. This was fascinating. I've never heard about us being in the roaring 20s again. I always thought that was in the past, but actually we're living it. And our great grandchildren are going to be reading about the roaring 20s that we're living in right now. And I think we should be optimistic. And
I'm very optimistic. Yeah. It's easy when you have these big down days and down months. It's easy to get a little depressed. I am anything but. I see this, hey, it's an opportunity to buy some things on sale, and these things just happen. The market goes up, the market goes down. We've just been a bit spoiled by how long it's been going up.
That's right. That's right. So reach out to John Browning, guardianrockwealth.com, or text life to 21,000, and you guys will have a great conversation. He'll help you build a life, not just a portfolio. John Browning, thanks so much for another great episode, buddy.
All right. Thank you. We'll see you next week.